Dr. Randall Sprick is one of the leading theorists in the field of classroom management and secondary education. As the director of Safe and Civil Schools, Dr. Sprick works with more than 30,000 teachers and administrators to increase safety, reduce classroom disruption, and improve school climate. Dr. Sprick believes that successful management of a secondary education classroom begins with proactive planning for avoidance of misbehavior. Within the broad category of planning for avoidance of misbehavior, there are a number of subcategories that Dr. Sprick addresses. First, Dr. Sprick believes that every teacher must have a clear and concise plan for the day-to-day operation of the classroom. This planning begins with the establishment of clear, long-range, academic and behavioral goals for students. These goals include what the student should know at a certain checkpoint throughout the school year and how the students will be held accountable for meeting the goals that are laid out for them. Additionally, it is imperative that the goals incorporate school, district, and state standards. Dr. Sprick has some advice when it comes to creating goals. First, it is incredibly important that the goals be explained to the students and their families as early in the year as possible. This allows the students to put focus on their goals right away and secures the family's help in completion of the goals. Secondly, secondary educators should collaborate with other teachers in their department to create goals that reach across the spectrum of subjects. The second main idea that Dr. Sprick believes a teacher must address for successful classroom management is organization. A classroom that has highly organized day-to-day operations is much less likely to suffer from classroom management issues. Some basic tips for remaining organized include scheduling classroom activities for each class period, adequately arranging the physical space in the classroom, planning effective procedures for beginning and ending the class, and planning effective procedures for monitoring and collecting student work. Finally, Dr. Sprick is a huge believer in the power of motivating students to be independently successful learners. As Dr. Sprick says, most problems can be avoided by communicating clearly how you expect students to behave during each activity and transition. The more specific you can be about a set of instructions, the more likely students are to follow the instructions without distraction. Expectation towards the beginning of the school year may be communicated more than those expectations towards the end of the school year as students become more used to how they are expected to behave. It is easier to lessen the amount of structure involved in the lesson than it is to increase the amount of structure because students are making poor choices. Perhaps one of Dr. Sprick's most emphasized ideas about motivation is the 3-to-1 rule.
So I want to make sure that I buttress against that possibility by you also saying it is actually easier to get my attention and more satisfying and a better kind of attention to get attention from me when you're exhibiting pro-social behaviors. So that includes everything from like if I had to correct you right before you left my class today, but I see you later in the hall and you're not even coming to my class, but I say, Devin, very good to see you. Having a good afternoon? There I am at a 1-to-1 with that kid, where that kid has seen, okay, he did correct my behavior and he said I need to be doing X or Y, but also he doesn't seem to hold a grudge. Just his saying, hey, good afternoon, Devin, yeah, how you doing? Has communicated. We're, at the very least, we're back to even. The next day when you're walking into my class, I say, hey, Devin, good to see you today. How are you? That's 2, because it's 2 times that I've interacted with you when you were not engaged in misbehavior. Neither of them in this particular case involve praise, but they're 2 demonstrations that you don't need to screw up or annoy me to be noticed by me. And then if a little bit later in class I get the class engaged in an independent work period and I just come over and I just look at the quality of your work and I just say, hey, looks like you're doing great, please let me know if you have any questions. That just acknowledges that I noticed your on-task behavior, and that puts me at 3-to-1.
Another way to motivate students to want to behave in class is to give them a reason to be enthusiastic about the activities they are participating in. By explaining how an activity will be useful to students, or providing a vision of what the activity will eventually allow the students to do, students can be rallied together to focus solely on the task at hand while foregoing any potential misbehaviors that may happen. The last contribution Dr. Sprick has made to secondary classroom management is the 4-tier intervention system. Simply put, this intervention system is designed to help teachers handle classroom management issues while involving as little outside assistance as possible. The first level of the system states, that a teacher should make minor modifications to the current management strategies if there is an issue occurring. The second level of the system suggests collecting systematic data about student behavior and regularly debriefing with any students that are misbehaving. The third level of intervention focuses on figuring out the purpose of the student's behavior and developing a plan to address that purpose. Lastly, if the misbehavior still persists, the fourth level of intervention suggests obtaining assistance from an outside source, such as a principal or a school counselor. Dr. Sprick's ideas and theories about secondary classroom management stem from effective practices in elementary classrooms. While not all of the practices will work for each individual teacher, Dr. Sprick's focus on motivating students to be self-regulating can result in an overall boost to the management of a classroom.